6, 7, and hop.
First of all, welcome to the Life Moves podcast. I am Michael Montoya.
Hi, I'm Todd Wilson. How are you?
I am doing all right. And today we are talking to an old friend of BreakOut Studios. Todd, did you know that in 2019, this person was nominated for a Regional Broadway World Award for Best Choreography for his work on Disney's Newsies at the Paramount Theater in Aurora, Illinois?
That's fabulous. We have a celebrity with us today.
He's the first operations manager for Giordano Dance Chicago and the director of their second company, Giordano 2. Am I getting any nays here? Is that correct? Is this correct?
Good. You're even saying Giordano right. I'm like very impressed.
That's a tough one.
I've been saying it all last night. Preparation. I'm like Giordano. My son's like, stop. Giordano Dance Chicago, aka the original American Jazz Dance Company.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Atlanta, Georgia. He's a dancer. He's a choreographer. He's now He's a director of stage and film, an editor, of course, an educator, and most importantly, he's a graduate from the University of Arizona.
Woohoo!
Ladies and gentlemen, ladies, gents, people of all ages, Joshua Blake Carter, how are you?
I'm wonderful. I'm so glad to be here with you guys and see you guys. I mean, that's the one benefit of the pandemic. We've been able to reconnect with people. How nice.
I know. And I'm so glad that me and you are gonna that I'm gonna be able to talk to you about dance, have a conversation with you about dance without you being in pain. Because you know what's about dance, you're getting tattooed.
Right.
So that'll be nice. It'll be a little bit more relaxing.
Absolutely. Yeah. Normally, like halfway through, I just stop talking to you. I'm like, okay, we're done now.
That's usually how it goes. It gets excitement at first, and it's just like, Were you born in Atlanta?
I was born in, I was born in a hospital in Atlanta, but I grew up in a suburb about 25 minutes north called Ackworth, Georgia. So I'm like what we do here in Chicago when people are like, I'm from Chicago, and they're really from like Schaumburg. We're like, you're not from Chicago. So I'm one of those, but for Atlanta. I'm not really from Atlanta proper, but I tell everyone I am.
Was there artists like in your family growing up? Was there artists? Was your mom, dad, brothers? Like, is there any of that around you at all whatsoever?
Looking at like when I first started dancing and really being involved in performing arts, I was like, where did this come from? But looking back, I mean, my dad was a big, he did a lot of building and woodworking. He did a lot with his hands. And, you know, there's a story that my mom and dad would go to these craft fairs and my mom would find something she liked. And my dad would be like, oh, well, I can make it for you. And he could. It would take him twice as long as, you know, just purchasing it that day. But he would make it and build it himself. And then I think my mom was a majorette in high school. So I think that has something to account for, right? She could throw a baton in the air and catch it and do a dance step while making it happen. So, but it wasn't in my immediate, you know, I grew up I was a boy. I was supposed to play sports. So, you know, and it wasn't until thankfully my brother came along and he fulfilled those shoes so that it took the pressure off me when I found dance. So
It always fascinates me when people grow up in an environment that, you know, it doesn't have a lot of that stuff around, and yet they still kind of find their way. And then that's also a common thing too, is that I can relate to that, thinking like, nobody around me would ever did anything artistic. Then you look back and you think, well, like you said, the woodworking thing and this, and you know, there's as an artist, you can look back and kind of spot your own, you know, and you're like, oh, I was actually surrounded by a lot of people that were creative and into their thing.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And my mom, I mean, even now, she's, you know, a big crafter. Well, she refinishes furniture. I mean, she just does it herself, instead of going out to buy it. So I think it's in our genes. It's just, it really, I got the dominant gene and it became very dominant.
So how did you even get exposed to dance?
I went to performing arts high school. So I got started with like theater going to church actually. And our church did these big pageant plays. And I found it really fascinating. And I had a middle school teacher who told my dad, who never went to parent teacher conferences, but for some reason had to go to this particular one. And the teacher said, there's a performing arts school that I really think Joshua should look into. It's a magnet program in our county. It's free. And, I think she was a little bit like looking out for my education, like, oh, he could really do this, but also like, I probably would have been eaten alive at my normal high school. I was just clearly the different one in my grade. And so my dad came home and he said, would you be interested in this? And I said, yes, 100%. And I auditioned to be a theater major and was accepted. And they said, if you want to be in the musicals, you need to learn how to dance. And I thought, musicals, like this is right around the time of Moulin Rouge. And I think Chicago, the musical movie came out like maybe within the year, the next year. And I was like, okay. And so I went and told my parents I need to take ballet. And I thought they were going to be like, no, you can't do it. And they were like, okay, let's go. We'll sign you up. And so it was never an issue. It was, I think they were grateful I'd found something to give my interest to, because, baseball didn't work, basketball didn't work. And I fell in love with dance. And I eventually, after the first year at the Performing Arts School, changed my focus from drama to dance. And the rest is kind of history with how I got into it.
Todd, how old were you? Todd! Todd, how old were you when you started dancing? Sorry, I'm just baffled by this.
I was thinking about this this morning, actually. I was 5, and it was sort of this, my parents were not dancers or any family in the arts. However, because it was accessible, my sister was in dance, and then they'd, have me around the studio when they'd pick her up, and I'd be kind of there. And the studio offered a scholarship for boys, for young boys to begin training. And they're like, oh, free daycare. Okay. So that was an easy decision for them, but it was really a like happenstance. It wasn't like premeditated at all. And I was thinking about this, Josh, while you were talking, how important accessibility is to dance, and how people sometimes need a little guide or a tap in their pathway to get to the right place. And how, community programming for kids is so incredibly important in the arts, so that they have that door to walk through. That's huge. So yeah, I was 5, and that was ballet arts in Tucson. So I not only did I start 5, I kind of jumped into like the deep end right away, because it was like tights, leotard. I mean, like, very strict.
White socks. Yeah, the whole thing.
Yeah, but what a blessing. I'm so glad. My parents, they tried, they tried. They encouraged the sports, and I tried different things. I did karate, I did all of, basketball, baseball, and all kinds of things. And it wasn't like I wasn't willing to try. I definitely wanted to try it out, but quickly dismissed. Very quick. So I
say it, encouraged. My family also encouraged. They didn't push it upon me, but it was encouraged.
Yeah. There wasn't. It definitely wanted me to get to a point where I exhausted my limit of when I could be there. They didn't want me just to kind of walk in and quit the first day. Like I had to like at least complete whatever that season was. Or I used to do like Parks and Rec classes. I remember I went to this karate class at Parks and Rec, and I had already done like 2 years of it But I went to this dude and he was just like Sergeant Karate Man, and it was not my vibe. It's like, I'm used to some crazy ballet teachers, but this is a whole new level and I am not about it. So I'm done.
You know, some people
So,
might need this. I don't need this.
yeah, like I could, I think self-defense comes through dance too. We get to like become limber and kick our legs really high. So I'll stick with that more graceful type of self-preservation.
Is 14 a normal age for people to start? Is there a typical age starting point for people who end up having a career in dance? You always hear people say, I started when as soon as I could walk, like Todd, like I was 5 years old, I was this and this, I was, there, a lot of people, especially with jazz, ballet, uh, you know, you hear a lot about people starting at such a young age. So I'm always surprised to hear when people start off at a late, later on, like that, like it's so old, but 14 years old, you know,
Well, I think common for like our generation of dancer, it's common that women started young and men started later because
Mhm.
in the late 90s, early 2000s, there was still a lot of taboo things about men in dance. I mean, up until recent years, men in dance has been not necessarily not that it wasn't celebrated by our community, but I mean by other, like the wider world. So I think Todd is actually starting at 5 as a guy is kind of rare for our again our age group. Whereas women I think to become professionals often do, or the ones that do often start younger. I think part of that has to do with body development too. They start first and they stop first, and then men, we start later and then we stop later. So our bodies, like biologically, can handle the training and the what it has to do to get into that form. It can handle it a later start. Um, so but now it is so much more common for younger men to get involved sooner. I mean, TV has done that with So You Think You Can Dance. They did the younger version. I mean, there's been a lot. There was, a few years ago with Laura Spencer on Good Morning America, there was a whole thing about boys dancing. So I think it's much more common now for men and boys to get started younger. I think just biologically, you're able to do it a little bit later if you do. Does that make sense?
Oh, that makes perfect sense. Do you remember the moment when it actually did click when you were in high school, and the moment you knew you didn't just like to dance, that when was that moment you were swimming around and you're like, okay, I want to do this. This comes natural to me, or
I have a
when
couple
was that?
touchstone moments that are like, I mean, one of them being like one of the first classes I took at the Georgia Ballet before I was ever at my performing arts school as a dancer. I was already at the school, but not dancing. And the jazz class, we did, a combination to Destiny's Child, Bootylicious. So yes, it was 2001. And so I just remember then being like, this is fun. Like I could do this. I could get paid to do this. This is cool. But it wasn't until some years later, after a summer program I attended, that I think that my body caught up with what my mind thought it could do. I think I thought I could do a lot more. My body wasn't there yet. And then this one summer, things just clicked. I mean, I remember like it was yesterday, summer of 2003. I came back to school that fall and I was a different dancer. I was moving differently. Again, things clicked. But then there was another time, a third time I feel, when I was in, college, and I quit letting my mind run everything. Then that was the next step. right? Like actually just starting to actually dance instead of let it being so in your head about it every time you do it. So I think that, you know, I kept falling in love with it over and over and having these little reminders of this is why you do it. I mean, even my last season dancing with Giordano, there was, you know, my last few shows, I thought, wait, is this really, because you know, there's no pressure anymore. I'm not going to be doing this job. So you almost are freer. And so then I'm like, wait, I'm in love with this all over again. So it's nice when you can keep falling in love with, you know, I think, you know, it goes for a partner or your career, your thing that you do as a path. It's nice to fall in love again.
Like a life hack.
Yeah.
You know, I want to backtrack a little bit because there was something I wanted to point out, and that's the person that said, I think that the person that suggested you go to this performing arts school, Todd had mentioned having, you know, resources, being able to have, you know, a way to dance and having a person to kind of give you that nudge. I definitely had that person too. It just, even if it's a random individual that just, it's that person that just suddenly sees it in you, right? It's that person that goes, you know, like I was saying, when you become an artist, you kind of look back in your life and suddenly you can spot your own and say, oh, so and so is totally an artist, whether he or she likes it or not, you know. That spotting your own kind of thing, or just spotting that little spark, like that person is just in it right now. I get it. I get it. Somebody saw that in me and pointed it out to me and just said, hey, it was a quick little thing, you know. It said I was watching a dance troupe practicing, and I was just I guess I must have been really into it. But the director, as they were practicing or doing their thing, just came up to me, had no idea who I was, and said, I see the look in your eye. I recognize that look in your eye. I don't know what's going on in there, but whatever is, when you decide to explore that and let it out, he said, you're going to be a monster. So if you want, come back tomorrow and you could, you know, I'll talk to these guys and you could start dancing with them if you want. And I was like, so caught off guard, you know, because I never even thought about that. I was like, who knows? If he never had said that to me, that may not have been like a thing like, hey, whoa, you know. What would happen if that performing art, if that performing arts school wasn't suggested, you know? There's all these what ifs, there's these pillars, be it people, be it opportunities, you know. And I try to think about that a lot, because as a dancer, as an older dancer, you know, I want to look for those moments to be that person for all these younger people as well too. When you that spark, you know, the importance of pointing that out and letting them know, hey, you know, it's like, here's your little envelope to Hogwarts, kid, have fun, you know. Thought that was a really cool thing, you know. Good on that person for throwing that out to your parents.
Absolutely. I've tried to find her actually on social media, and I can't track her down. I don't know if maybe she got married or whatever, but I have tried to find her just to be like, I want you to know this became a career. Yeah. So.
Yeah. What was the soundtrack to your high school years?
Oh, Rufus Wainwright. Anything Rufus Wainwright. I was introduced to him when I was a freshman not personally, God, I wish, but his music when I was a freshman. And he was a young, older than I was, but a young gay artist, musician, making music that I got it. You know, it was like everybody else was listening to, you know, popular music that got them into their feelings. And here I was, I had somebody that like I could see myself in. And I mean, I have vivid memories when I listened to a certain CD, because yes, I had it on a CD of his, of being in my 1993 Acura Integra stick shift, driving around downtown Atlanta during Gay Pride and listening to this like really moody music. See, I told you it's really specific. That was my soundtrack.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Yeah, dancers, younger dancers, dance teachers nowadays will never understand the struggle of having to carry like luggage, a luggage worth of CDs, hauling them around to wherever gigs you are, and you're like opening them up, photo album slack.
Yeah, the albums.
Go to my car to get that. I got to see CDs in the car.
I mean,
Oh
I
my!
really miss the tape era. I don't know how I would have done that. Like that just seems like you listen to one tape. That's it. I'm putting on the tape. This is the whole class. We do pliés through all the way to the end of class. A combination is the last song on the tape.
Michael used to remix our music on a little cassette boombox, or I don't know what it was, and he would literally cut and remix just by the button. It was the most. I wish we had video. I mean, of course we didn't have video, but it would be an incredible thing. I'm gonna search out a boombox for you, Michael, and I want you to reenact how you used to. It was incredible.
Yeah, it's a pretty much when you cut and paste music now on an editing program, which now almost every dancer is savvy when it comes to editing music. At that point in time, that was like a completely additional skill to have. And so you'd play a tape, you'd have this other side recording, and you'd play up to where you'd want it to cut. And it has to be precision. You have to press that pause button right where you want it to cut, right? And then you get the other song, you put that song there and you cue it up, pause that, right? And you hold both pauses down and your fingers are crossed like, yeah, you know. And then if it doesn't work, then you have to rewind it. But we would make like 10-minute long mixes.
Oh my God.
And as soon as
when you'd listen to the radio and you couldn't afford to buy the new tape of whoever was out, and so you had a tape in your boombox, and you would try to get it right after the DJ had introduced the song, so you didn't get the intro. But sometimes that meant you cut off the first the downbeat of the song. But I used to have a lot of mixtapes like that.
Well, one point in time with us, we were dancing everywhere. We were performing all over the place, and there were a lot of different little dance crews. And when a new song came out, and of course this is in the 90s, so this is like one of the golden eras of pop and dance and music videos and all that stuff. So when a new Janet song hit, or a new whatever song hit, or a new NSYNC song dropped, and it would take a while before the single was available to purchase. There's no downloads. You got to get like the CD, like the single or the cassette single, right? So it would hit the radio first, sometimes for maybe close to a month before they released it. So yeah, you're right. We would try to do that same thing. We're calling the radio stations. I remember being at the dance room, in Miss Hunt's dance room, and calling the radio station because we wanted to make routines to a certain song, and it's not out yet. And we're waiting for them and just praying, please, DJ, don't talk over the intro too much, please. And then whatever bit we could take, we would take it and remix it, throw it in there, and try to be the first. So people were like, yeah, do you remember the first dancers and choreographers you looked up to?
My perception of, I think, dance and choreography shifted over time. When I was introduced to dance, it was at this performing arts school, and so their big focus was musical theater. So even though I was a dance, my focus was dance. We performance-wise, we did our dance concert in the winter and in the spring, but we had all these musicals throughout the year. So I just remember some of the first choreographers really being aware of were people like Bob Fosse, the people who are quintessential, shaped musical theater. I mean, we had a whole dance history element as well. So you're learning about Jack Cole and all of these people who came and really shaped our world. And it wasn't really until I got to U of A that I understood the vast dance world that we have. Not that it had not been presented to me. I think I was just in a space to finally really uncover it all and understand that there was concert dance. And that's when I learned about all the possibilities in choreography. And like my freshman year, we worked with Frank Chavez, who used to be the artistic director of River North Dance Chicago. And it was the first time I thought, wait, this is the other kind of, I can move this way too, you know? And really his musicality and the way that he moved people around the stage, I remember being so blown away by. And then we also used to have a professor at U of A, Doug Nielsen, and his choreography and the way, and I worked with him a lot. I had the opportunity to actually be in probably 3 or 4 of his works during my time there. And watching him in the room and how he designed work and how he moved people around, how he had us learn things to, you know, Beyonce music, and then he'd put on the actual music. I mean, all of the different, you know, choreographic modalities that he used to generate work really allowed me to see, you know, oh, you can make steps outside of the dance book. I call it the dance book, you know, like the ballet vocabulary book or the jazz vocabulary book. You know, the steps don't all have to have a name, right? You can make up anything and call it dance. And now we also know that there's people who make up anything and call it dance, and it maybe should not be. But I'm not gonna damp out their fire. You know, I'm not gonna dampen their fire. But you know, it was my U of A years were really the time that I found and understood. Oh, we lost Michael. Oh, you're back. You're back.
You there?
Yes. Can you hear us?
Everybody just started talking slow.
Everybody froze. I was like,
I thought you looked
Sorry about that.
still. I was like, he's really still right now. I would just say that I think my U of A years were the years that I really started leaning into choreography and choreographers. I had dabbled in it in high school in choreography, but in college, it was not only part of your curriculum, you had to take choreography class, but you're then working with different choreographers. You're working with not only the faculty, but guest choreographers. And the University of Arizona also has an exceptional presenting program. I mean, I saw Joffrey Ballet and Hubbard Street Dance Chicago for the first time in Tucson. You know, I saw Martha Graham dance. I saw Pilobolus. I mean, I saw all these incredible world-class companies for the first time in Tucson. So it was really my exposure to this, to the vast world of choreography. I mean, Hubbard Street, I can still remember the show they did. I mean, they opened with an Alejandro Cerruto piece, and then they did a Lucas Crandall work, and then they did a Twyla Tharp piece, and they closed with a Jim Vincent work. So, I mean, that program made that much of an impression on me that I can still remember it 15 years later. You know, kudos to them and to those choreographers. I mean, they really, and to the UA Presents. I mean, they're really providing a great service, bringing that world-class talent out to Tucson. Did I answer your question?
how did the U of A? Yeah. Oh yeah. How did the U of A get on your radar?
My high school jazz teacher she got her master's there. And now 2 girls had gone before me. One, my freshman year, she graduated and went, but didn't even, you know, as a freshman, I wasn't thinking about college. I didn't even know that's where she went. And then the next year, another girl, she graduated and went, but it really was my high school jazz teacher who said, you really should look at this program. Because I'd been looking at things that were all East Coast, Point Park, University of the Arts, University of Alabama. And I think my parents really hoped that I didn't like U of A just because it was, you know, so far. But my mom and I went for Jazz Dance Showcase, and I participated in classes. I did my audition at Jazz Dance Showcase, but you also get to see, a faculty performance of the dance students. And they were performing Sherry Zunker's Reality of a Dreamer. The women were in fishnet bodysuits and G-strings and bras, and the men were in black full bodysuits. And it was Sweet Dreams by the Eurythmics. It was so hot. And I looked at my mom and I was like, I have to go to school here. This is it, And that was, again, it was another thing that U of A kind of opened my eyes to was, oh, there is a whole other world of dancing out there that, not that I hadn't been exposed to, but that I had not immersed myself into. I'd really been musical theater focused in high school, while training, while getting a great ballet and jazz and modern training, but I was really focused on, I thought I was going to go do that. And U of A, I was like, oh, okay, there's all of this too. So that was it. And I auditioned, and I auditioned for one other school. And all of my other auditions were in the spring of my senior year. And I got the early admission from U of A, and I was like, I'm done. Like, canceled all my other auditions. Didn't finish a lot of my apps, and went. Yeah.
What year was that Reality of a Dreamer performance?
2004. Were you in it?
Were you one of these gentlemen in the bodysuits?
I think so. I mean, I moved LA in 2004, but it might have been after Showcase, like right after, because I was in the first cast of that piece. I don't remember. We did that.
I remember Trisha Kelly and Jeff Gonzalez.
Yeah. So I don't think I was in that cast. I think they were the second cast, because
Okay.
Cesar was, I think, in mine. I don't remember, but yeah, I remember there were a few parents. I think we actually toned down the costume a little bit for the girls, because some of the parents complained that they didn't want the girls. I don't know what the change was, but yeah, that's crazy.
They brought it back. River North did their last season, their 25th anniversary season before the company closed. And it was great to see. Sherry had done a new version, Evolution of a Dream, but they brought back the original as well.
I remember the audition when she came and auditioned that piece. And I think, because when she auditioned, I wasn't even a student. And this is when I was dual enrolled. So I wasn't full-time. I was still in high school. And she wanted us to do an improv ending. And it had to do with like losing our minds or going crazy or something like that. And everyone around me, is freaking out and like and I just stood still because I knew that I could separate myself out from everyone else in the moment. And I think that's why I got the job. the piece.
Because you would do something different.
Well, I was just like, I'm just gonna stand here and pretend like that's how I'm, that's my madness, is just being still, and worked.
Well, It's funny how people, when they're asked to improv, it's like when you're nervous and you speak really fast, people do the same thing with improvisation, and they get nervous and they just move as fast as they can. And I'm just like, slow down, experience, like, it's still improv if you barely move. Like, draw us in with something else, but calm it down.
Yeah.
What was the application process like for the U of A? What is that whole? Just call it. I've never gone through that.
I'm trying to remember, because I was just talking to somebody the other day about applying for college, a high school student, and I said, I don't even know what it's like anymore, but I know that because I did early admissions for the actual university, I'm sure there was an essay of some sort, and, sending all your high school records and things of that nature. But I remember for U of A, because I did the Jazz Showcase audition, it's an abbreviated audition. Normally the auditions are 4 hours, for the university. And it was an hour and a half for me. So we did 30 minutes of ballet, 30 minutes of jazz, 30 minutes of modern. So some people would think that's great. Okay, you only saw me for 30 minutes. But other people, it's like, well, they actually saw me for 4 hours. They got to see a lot more of my potential. So there's, give and take to which scenario you prefer. But because I had done the abbreviated audition, I then sent in a video to be considered for scholarship. And in the video, you had to do several combinations at the bar. You had to do several center combinations for ballet. And then you had to do a 30 or 45-second jazz combination and a 30 or 45-second modern combination, which I didn't have a lot of modern at the time. So I did what we would have called lyrical back then, which is what the kids are calling contemporary these days. But that's what I did, and submitted that. And
I was like, okay, well, maybe that's funny.
Well, I like to throw a little shade about contemporary only because kids think that it's like the new jazz or the new whatever, and it's like, no, it's just definitive of a period of time. It's what's happening right now. Like, it's still inclusive of all these other things. But I remember getting to U of A, and the first week or something, they gave us our audition tapes back. And I had made all of these friends in my dorm right off the bat. And they were like, we want to watch your tape. We want to see you dance. And I remember watching it and my eyes just getting big, and I was like sweating. I was so embarrassed because what I thought was good, and it had been a year at this point. I'd made the video in the fall of my senior year. Here I was watching it the fall of my freshman year. And I thought, God, this is what I look like when I dance. But yeah, I don't remember the process being super stressful. Besides the audition, which I think either you love to audition or you don't. And thankfully I'd had experience auditioning, but like doing a modern combination in a 12 count with a live musician was something I'd never done before. Until I was there with Amy Ernst auditioning for the U of A. So yeah, that was the process for that. But every university is so different as far as what they require. Some don't require an audition. But I think that every program, no matter where you go, it's like same thing as life, right? You get out what you put into it. So you can't go to the best program in the country and expect to leave the best dancer if you don't put in that work, but you could also go to a lesser known program, maybe that, you're not at Juilliard, you're not at U of A, and still leave and be one of the most hireable dancers because you put in the effort and the work. And so.
Rocky beat Ivan Drago in Rocky 4, even though Ivan Drago had all this high-tech equipment, and Rocky was a grizzly man in the woods training by chopping trees and, running up mountains.
Right. I haven't seen it, but I can see it. I mean, I can visualize it.
Who are the well, actually, oh shoot, sorry, speaking of the U of A, sorry, trying to think about what I was just about to ask you. What was the soundtrack to your college years?
Ooh, that's really, really good. I think I started in college. I really started to expand my my listening. I think part of that was getting into choreography, and trying to stray away from popular music because I was really getting into also concert dance choreography. And so I was listening to stuff like, when I think of college, the first thing I can think of is this Brazilian music I used for a piece while I was at U of A. But still, I go back to Rufus. He carried me through those young and formative years. My second commission, professional commission, I did a full work, like a 25-minute work to Rufus music. And that exploration actually started in college, and I choreographed a couple of short solos for friends to Rufus Wainwright songs. So he's kind of stayed my constant background soundtrack. But then also, like, I was also enjoying college, if you will. I was enjoying my other major, which was celebrating. We'll call it celebrating, aka partying. So, you know, I was also listening to Beyonce, and I was listening to, you know, I mean, I will always love Beyonce. I mean, believe it or not, Lady Gaga she wasn't in anybody's thought process when I was in school, in college. So she didn't come until later. Yeah, God, I guess it would have been. Oh, and Cold War Kids. The Cold War Kids are another song that make me think, or another artist that make me think of college. I had a roommate who used to blast Cold War Kids and got me into them. But yeah,
There is something about dance that really, really broadens your musical spectrum. I like what you said earlier about when you're a younger dancer and the ideas and the movement that you have in your head, you're not really able to do with your body yet. But then there's that point where you start to feel like your body's catching up with your head a bit, and then you're just able to kind of move and flow. And it really resonated with me when you said, you know, that how with choreography and mess around just with movement, you branch off and you explore other types of music. It's almost like at a certain point, your body that needed to catch up with your mind is now kind of moving past your mind and letting you know the type of movement it wants to do, and making you kind of search outward for something to, you know, to I don't know, go along with that, to dance with that.
yeah, no. I mean, I think you hit it right on. I mean, I think your mind holds you back from so much in life. I mean, we get in our heads, and I think that, you know, especially when you're younger, yes, you can see all of this, but maybe you can't do it, and then once you can then overcome your mind, you know, your body really can inform so much. I mean, that's really improvisation, right? Is letting go, getting outside of your head, and actually just you know, generating movement. And you're so much freer when you're not trying to be controlled by, oh well, it has to be this clean linear thing, you know. I mean, that's what makes a great dancer in any rehearsal process or anything, is one that goes with their natural inclination, you know, and tries to really just be a part of that creative process. I love creative processes because you had so much, usually with most choreographers, you get a lot of input, you know, the dance is being made for you. And so part of that is, again, getting out of your head and allowing yourself to be vulnerable and be a part of movement generation.
How do you what is I'm jumping a little bit ahead here, but what do you look for in dancers, in movers? Like, if you're gonna work with a specific group, is there certain things that you look for specifically, or that you hope for, or is it just every group that comes what it comes with, and those are the working parts,
Well, you know, it's
or individual?
yeah, I mean, it's different for, I think, every opportunity. You know, with Giordano, and when we're hiring dancers, you know, they're all coming into Giordano too first. So we hire for our main company out of our second company. And so when we're looking at people in auditions, we're looking for someone who is, you know, our second company. You may dance in it for 2 or 3 years before there's a position open in the main company. So we want somebody who's willing to put in that work, put in the time, has good energy, you know, has good work ethic. You know, then we're looking at are they a good dancer? I mean, the good dancer part is really important. But if you're the best dancer, but like horrible to work with, we don't want to work with you. Or have an attitude, we don't want to work with you. I mean, I have been told the story, and I'm not going to name any names, but somebody once hired me over somebody else that I was in an audition with. And the person that I was in the room with, the other dancer, was exceptionally better than I was. However, they had a reputation for having an attitude and being difficult to work with. Therefore, I got the job. And you know, it's really important how you carry yourself. And it's that age-old thing of you're being watched from the time you walk in the room. And it's true. And it's not to say we don't have bad days, and that the dancers that we work with in our company don't have days when they're, you know, down or low, but then that's when you become, you know, part of a family. But I think personality and the way you carry yourself is so important. But then as far as like actual dance training, I mean, for Giordano, we look for dancers who have not only a strong jazz background, but a strong ballet background, because the way that jazz dance has evolved and moved, you know, we're working with choreographers of vast backgrounds that their work requires very strong ballet technique. So that's something that I think is always been important, but I think it's even more important in what we're looking at now. And then for me as an individual, when I'm doing projects, and if I get to hire the dancers, you know, a lot of times I'm hiring my friends. So so I know how they dance is what I mean. A lot of times I don't get to, you know, I get a call, hey, we have this gig. We need you to hire 10 dancers, and here's what it's for, and go. And so a lot of times it's not even about holding an audition. It's a lot easier and cheaper to go, okay, I know 4 people from Hubbard Street and 3 from Joffrey and 2 from Giordano who are available, and I put them all together, and we do, you know, we make the gig, whatever the gig is. But again, that's those people that I'm calling are those people that you want to work with, people you know that are going to get it done quickly, that, you know, their time is valuable, so they don't want you to have them in rehearsal for 8 hours on a Sunday, but they don't want to be in rehearsal for 8 hours on a Sunday. So they're going to work quickly and efficiently, and they're professional. So they're going to make sure that the gig is elevated to the bar at which it was asked to be set. And hopefully you excel that, and we're all asked back again.
Your involvement with Giordano Dance Chicago is almost poetic, with the way that it's always kind of seemed to move around your dance life. The teacher that recommended the U of A, wasn't that teacher Giordano?
Yeah, she was a Giordano 2 dancer.
So exposure to the technique, to the company.
Yeah, she definitely had some of the style in her class. But then getting to U of A, you know, at my time at U of A, all 3 of the jazz faculty were former Giordano dancers. So there was this other connection. And so Nan was coming every year to the Jazz Showcase to teach. And that was kind of that meeting. But the first time I went to Giordano was between my freshman and sophomore year of college, and somebody else had received a scholarship to go for the summer, not me, and they couldn't go. And I said to then faculty member Susan Quinn, I said, well, can I use the scholarship? Like I would like to go.
Take note, kids. Take note, kids.
Yeah. And so I went, and I had black hair. I was wearing like this, dyed black. My eyebrows were black. I was wearing a red unitard, and I showed up to her class, and she was like, who are you? And I was like, oh, I'm so-and-so. She's like, oh, okay. You know, she was just not having it. It just wasn't the Giordano aesthetic. You know, it was very clean. You know, our company, if we're doing any kind of showing or anything where it's all black, it's not all black every day, but this bright red unitard was not it. And neither was this dyed black hair. I had a red stripe in it to match my unitard. That was the key. So I fast forward the next summer, I came to Chicago, but didn't go to Giordano. I had an injury, and so I just came and took some classes other places. Came back between my junior and senior year. Same story. Not given a scholarship. Somebody else was given a scholarship, couldn't go. Susan, can I use the scholarship? She said sure. And I took the scholarship, showed up in all black, I had shaved my head, so taken off all the color, and Nan was like, "Who are you?" And I'm like, "Oh, I was actually here a couple summers ago." And then she remembered. She was like, "Oh my gosh, how you've transformed." And I really think that summer was the reason I am still standing here today. Was I spent 2 months training, with the company, training with Nan, and showing not only that I would work hard, but I was moldable. Companies, any job wants to know that you're not going, unless they're hiring you to be the soloist, they want to know that you're not going to steal the spotlight from whatever it is that you're doing, right? And for our company, everybody's a soloist. So meaning everybody's there because of what they have as an individual, but also because they can blend as a unit and become something on stage. And so that was the start of my journey with Giordano. And I was hired into the second company after that for 1 year, and then was in the main company for 7. Say that again.
Straight out of college?
Straight out of college, yeah. So we graduated, and I packed up the car and moved to Chicago the next week, and started the job right away. It was a summer where they did the Jazz Dance World Congress, which has been on hiatus for a little bit of time, but it was this big festival that Giordano produced. Gus Giordano started it in, I think, 91. And it brought people from all over the world, dance companies from Japan and from Mexico and from Germany and of course the United States, and had this big festival, all these classes, performances. So that's what I walked into as my first day on the job. It was like, okay, we're getting ready for the Jazz Dance World Congress. And after that year, it just, timing is everything in this profession, unfortunately. Not everything, but it has a lot to do, right? There was a position that opened at the end of that season, and I was lucky to get it. I mean, like I said before, some of our dancers spend 2 or 3 years in our second company before a position is available for them to move up. And then I danced with the company for 7 years, and during that time, our rehearsal director was promoted. She was also the Giordano 2 director. She was promoted to associate artistic director. And they opened up the job for any of us to apply first to be the director of Giordano 2. And I applied. I'd only been in the company for, I think, 3 years at this point. I was 26 and got the job to be the director of Giordano 2, which has been a true, joy to me, not only because it's an outlet to be able to create, but to create with to get to create on professional artists and hungry professional artists, and it's really magical. And but then, sorry, now I got long-winded, but you said my journey at Giordano. It's been a journey. They had said to me though at some point, when you're ready to transition out of performing, we'd like you to stay. And I had shown that I had done some administrative work in between various contracts, and I was very lucky that the year before or the year I retired, I went to them at the beginning of the season and I said, "This is my year." And I said, "But I also wanted to give you advance notice that I would also like to take you up on your offer to stay." So they had a kind of, it was also nice for them because they had a year to go, okay, can we allocate funds to hire another position, to have somebody else? And it's all worked out. And it's great because I work actually part-time for the company. So it allows me the flexibility to do things like this. Even, on a Friday, I didn't, I can, I'm not missing work for this, and I can do my different, next week I'll be at a residency at a university, and, it's not hard for me to miss a week of work or 2 weeks of work. And they also make it work. So they're really invested in also my artist development as well.
That's awesome. That's cool. I think it's cool. you know, like what we were talking about earlier, you're the first person to hold the title there of operations manager, but is uh is it true that you're only the second person in the company's history that went from the ranks of dancer into the actual faculty? Hasn't there only been like you and another person or something like that?
So there's been, Caesar, my colleague Caesar Salinas, was a dancer, and he left the company and went and ventured on some other things for a while, and then came back. And now he and I both work really intimately on the artistic administrative team. But then also Autumn Ekman, who I was referring to earlier about, and I didn't say her name, and I should have because she's on faculty at the University of Arizona now. She had been in Giordano I think she joined in 99 or 2000, danced for a few years at that company, and then she danced for State Street Ballet and Hubbard Street and Luna Negra and all these different companies, and then came back to choreograph for Giordano my first season, and it's when I was in the second company. And then that turned for her, it turned into rehearsal director, then resident choreographer, then Giordano 2 director, and so there have been 3 of us who have danced and stayed. And I should also mention John Lair, who was with the company for a while as well. He was in the company, I want to say 12 seasons or something, and he was a rehearsal director and an artistic associate and a resident choreographer for a while. But it is a small number in the 58-year history. It's a small number. I'm sure there are others, so I don't want to, like, if anybody listens to this and you're like, wait, I know so and so. I'm sure there are others that definitely worked on both sides. I even want to say Susan Quinn might have in her time. I think she danced, and again, it's very few and far between. There's not a lot. Also, there's not a lot of jobs on the artistic administrative side. So it's not like you can't aspire to it. It's just that, we have 15 dancers. We have 4 people in our office right now, and before the pandemic, it was only 8. So it's not like there's enough positions to provide someone a post-dancing job.
You have to be more than a great dancer. You also have to be the kind of person that says, hey, that person's not going to take the scholarship. I'll take that scholarship. See those opportunities, have that work ethic. Man, that's in your opinion. What are some of the specific elements of Giordano's technique that make it so distinctive?
Well, we say it's grounded, it's regal, and it's proud. Those are 3 words that we used when we were really looking during our 50th anniversary season to really identify. Everybody talks about the Giordano plie. It's low, it's into the ground. The regalness comes from, there's this lift. I remember Sam Watson from U of A said when he danced for Giordano that he would go to other auditions, and as soon as he would get ready to go across the floor, he would lift his head, and he had somebody stop him after the audition and say, "Are you a Giordano dancer?" And he was like, I am. But they knew that lifted, proud feeling of the training of the technique. Well, it's funny, it happened to another dancer of ours who I used to be my roommate on tour. His name is Sean Rosansky, and he was in New York. Same thing, in an audition, and somebody called it right out. Were you a Giordano dancer? So that proudness and that the way that it emanates out of your chest, it is there's a definite energy about the technique as well. But there are a lot of clean lines and clarity around it too. I think that it's such an amazing technique to train younger dancers in, especially now, and not younger like 5, 6, 7. I'm talking when you get into that middle school, high school range, when their bodies are actually accepting muscle memory, like good muscle memory that's going to stay with them. It's such a great foundational technique, just like ballet is, for preparing you for a different kind of moving. And so often now, I see when I go to conventions or things that if I throw in any of this kind of oppositional, core-based movement that is in the Giordano technique, dancers have a lot of trouble with it. And I don't teach it necessarily straight from the book. It actually shows up though in my choreography and in my teaching, just because it's in my body. So when I'm creating something, a lot of times I'm like, oh, I know where that came from. And dancers have trouble with it because, especially in jazz class, they're doing jumping jacks to get warm. And then they're going across the floor to learn how to kick their leg and do pirouettes. And then they're learning a combination that has no substance to it. I mean, where's the technique? Where's the style? Where's the style? I mean, that's the thing that I think jazz has lost on a big scale, is the style. It's gotten very one note. Everything looks the same. And so that's what I love about Giordano as well, is that there's so much style to it. It drips with style. I just went on a tangent and I'm done.
I think we could spend like another hour talking. I think we're just scratching the surface. How are you on time, Todd?
We're good. I can do maybe a few more minutes. I will have to start checking out of my hotel room soon, because we have to get on the road to avoid this snowstorm that's heading towards the Grand Canyon. But I definitely think we should do a second one. And this is great. I was going to say, about Gus Giordano and the company and access to things. Tucson and U of A and UA Presents. He came out to Jazz Showcase. I think it was the first year. I think they brought him as like the first master teacher, or maybe it was the second year. And we went, and these kids from Tucson, Arizona, being able to take from this icon. I actually have a picture of him stretching my feet. Someone took a picture of him like kneeling over me, stretching my feet. I don't know where it is, but we got this incredible access to this man with such a rich history in our dance world, and then being able to see that and then travel through that sort of genre of movement. And you're right, there is something missing in the community nowadays, and a sort of preservation in the masses of that technique. I mean, there's specific companies doing it, but my guess, leading into a question, who right now in the Giordano technique is preserving that style and that technique? Is it the company? Is it Nan? Who's actively doing that?
That's a great question. We've actually spent the last 7 years, because you can't trademark a movement style, but you can trademark the training program. So Nan and some of the dancers, including myself and some of the administrative staff and our lawyers. I mean, we spent time going through Gus's anthology, going through his syllabi, going through all of the things that he had generated, and going, okay, this material is still relevant, accessible. We can do all of this. Okay, maybe this is a little different. There are terms that we used to use that we call double attitude on the floor that we don't use anymore. I mean, and so there are things that have changed, including just exercises that we know more about the body and biomechanics of the body that we changed and went through. And Nan has taken Gus's codified technique and made it and trademarked the training program. And it's in 5 levels, which is how he had his program also identified. It's basic, beginning, intermediate, advanced, and professional. And teachers from around the world have been getting certified in it. And we've actually took it virtually when the pandemic started. We were supposed to have a training in June, and we took it online. And we were like, oh, I don't know if this is going to work. I don't know if it's going to be great. It has been such an exceptional thing because, like I said, people from all over the world who maybe couldn't have traveled to Chicago to get the training have now been able to do it. So we did another one in the fall. We're doing another one in March. We're doing another one in July. So that's where it's coming in, and a lot of people are taking it back to their studios. It's not to replace any of this, I mean, commercial style or any of the other styles that people are doing. It's to enhance. It's to enhance people's knowledge of not only movement, but it makes you a better dancer and a better mover. It's just like, knowledge is power in anything, especially in, movement knowledge. The more knowledge you have. So yeah, I've definitely seen it grow and benefit a lot of people over the last recent few years because of this preservation that we are doing.
I'm sure there's a financial benefit to taking that all online too. I mean, the struggle is real for the funds,
Right.
on all levels. And so the fact that you are still able to offer a service, an important service, and charge for it and have people access it anywhere, that's great. So little silver lining
Yes.
in this madness.
Yeah, we've definitely been looking for those silver linings, and that was one of them for sure.
Absolutely.
Before we go, I wanted to ask where we could see some of your work, or some people out there could check out some of your work. You want to direct us? I know that you recently directed a short film, right?
I did actually, connecting back to Autumn Ekman again. She choreographed a piece it was the year before, it was our 49th year, Giordano's 49th year. And it's called Jolt. It's all about, what drives us and what, that kind of monotonous, like, drive that we all have of just caffeinating ourselves and go, 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 go. And we were looking for a way to engage our dancers that we could do that was safe, that provided them safety, but also provided them work and artistic work, during this time. And one of them said, "Oh, well, Jolt's kind of a socially distant piece." And I said, okay. And we all kind of thought about it. And I went home that night and it just kind of clicked in my head. And I went back the next day. I said, yes, let's make it into a film. We filmed it in 1 week on my iPhone and with a gimbal. And it turned out to be a really awesome thing. So Jolt, the film, you can see it on our website at giordanodance.org, or you can go over to our home theater here in Chicago, where we're resident company is the Harris Theater for Music and Dance. They have a virtual stage. So at harristheaterchicago.org, where you can see Jolt, but you can also see a film by Hubbard Street. You can see Jacob Jonas, the company, is doing a big film release over the next few weeks of all these different dance films. So it's a nice resource, and it's free. It's all free. So none of it's paid, not paid on our website. You're not paying on the Harris website to see all of this nice free virtual dance and music if you're going to go to the Harris site. But as far as finding me and finding my stuff, Instagram's the best way to keep up with what I'm doing. And I'm at JBC Choreography on Instagram. And yeah, I tend to keep my stuff there. I have a reel. You can click in my bio. There's a link in bio where you can see my reel. And yeah.
All right. Can you hear me okay? You're freezing up here.
Me?
Hello.
Hello.
There you go.
Oh, could you see? Am I freezing up on you guys here?
No, I
bit.
stopped in a weird mid-point. I stopped. I don't know.
I heard everything. Everything loud and clear. I have an almost 5-year-old that's in the house over there that's probably watching something, with the internet. And then my wife is probably listening to a podcast on the computer while doing something on this whole thing. So I'm sure that even though I said something, that my Wi-Fi is very occupied right now. But yeah, let's please do this again, because there's so much stuff I want to ask you about. I want to ask you about, the differences of choreographing for stage versus for film. There's just so much that we could cover. There's a whole lot. So we got to plan a part 2 soon.
Let's do it. I'm all for it. And it's a great time for it. I mean, you know, as much as we all wish we were doing more outside physical stuff, I mean, it's a good time. I'm here. I'm here. I'm ready to talk.
So are you, I remember you mentioning you're doing a residency somewhere soon?
Yeah, I'm going to be at Southeast Missouri State University next week.
Very nice, very nice.
And it's all about connections, because both the people who run the program, both U of A masters grads. So, you know, it's a connection I made years ago, and here it is coming all these years later.
So I've been working on some quick, just rapid fire questions. No explanation necessary. I have 7 so far. I haven't shared these with Todd yet, but I want Todd to think about it because I want you to add to these. If you think of anything. All right. This is name a blank that has had a huge influence on you. Name a live performance that's had a huge influence on you.
Hubbard Street at Centennial Hall in the late 2000s, like maybe 2007 or 8.
Name a mentor who's had a profound influence on you.
Emily Ewell, my high school jazz teacher.
A period of time.
Ooh, my late 20s.
A film.
It's a really messed up film, but Closer. The movie Closer with like, oh God, who's in the movie now? Natalie Portman, maybe Jude Law, Julia Roberts. Everybody's cheating on everybody, but it's like a really beautifully well done film.
An artist who's had an effect on you or an influence on you.
Well, Rufus Wainwright musically. I think choreographically, I mean, there's so many, but Alexander Ekman or Alejandro Cerruto would be 2.
A place.
Tucson.
Ooh, I love it. And last one, a song.
A song. Oh my God. End of the World by Ingrid Michaelson.
Nice. All right. Well, that's all I have, unless we're going to keep going for a long time, because I can. Like, there's so many things I love. So I'm gonna, you know, I'm gonna say, hey. Let's do this again.
Hey.
Let's do it again. You let me know, and I'll be there with bells on. Maybe I'll really put bells on.
What about you, Todd? Anything else before we go?
No, I just want to thank you so much, Josh, for joining us and spending your time with us this morning. And it's always nice to catch up with old friends, and best wishes for all your new projects.
Thank you. And I'm so glad to be here, and lovely to see you both, even though it's not in person. Technology is wonderful that way.
Yes.
All right.
Awesome. Well, until next time, thank you, Joshua Carter. Joshua Blake. Are you going Joshua Blake?
Yes.
Carter?
Yes, it is. Yes, all 3 for sure.
Carter. JBC.
There you go. That's my business name, JBC Creative. So
until next time, for the Life Moves podcast, I am Michael Montoya.
And I'm Todd Wilson.
Life Moves.
Move with it.
6, 7, and hop. 6, 7, and hop. 6, 7, and hop. 6, 7, and hop.